Alright, I'm live again with Elite Dangerous. Welcome back to whomever is here. Let's plot a route. And also, let's see how far away I am from Baras. $17,301.38 light years. That's not bad. Come on, chat, let's go. How long can it take to calculate one route? Alright, well, let's get off this rock. I can get off this rock because I sped up the harvest. Star Wars. Come on, chat. Where's everybody? Nobody's here. It makes me sad.
Frameshift drive charging. 4, 3, 2, 1. Engage.
Itch. Chin is itchy. Oh, looks like the route has been plotted. There we go. Oh, it says I have one viewer. Guess the route hasn't been plotted. Who comes up with this stuff? Come on, game. Plot my route. My route. Ugh, so forever taking. Welcome, Duke. Alright, so what was your question about copyrights and suing people? I don't know. It was long and I didn't want to read it in Facebook. Especially since I didn't want to type the answer. It's taking so long mostly because the algorithms are not great. Wrong button. Well, yeah, the row calculating algorithms were just... Well, it wasn't a question, but it was like... It was of curious nature, let's put it that way. Well, yeah, I mean, they are, but there was something you asked about, like, oh, what if I sue someone or something? You had something about, like, what if I sue someone from a different country or something under free trade? I'm not exactly sure what the question was.
Frameshift drive charging.
Well, it certainly could be. You could simply not have copyright laws or patent laws, since they're completely unjustifiable. I mean, they're as unjustifiable as marijuana prohibition or laws against prostitution. You might think it's not nice to take someone else's ideas and use them, but that's about all it amounts to. You don't think it's nice. Okay, but I'm not sure what would happen if you try to sue a corporation in another country. Oh, okay. So here's the thing about free trade, right? Free trade would mean that foreign companies and domestic companies are under the same legal framework, right? So, if a company does business in your country, well, there are two possibilities for international free trade idea, right? One is under a kind of state paradigm in which there are still states occupying various territories and claiming legitimacy over, and essentially a monopoly over dispute resolutions, right? So, if a foreign company is on the same legal standing as a domestic company, what that means is they must have domestic agents, right? So they must have people in the country to ship things in and to sell things and buy things, right? Or you're buying something from a middleman. Now, we'll take the first case, where you're actually buying directly from a foreign company. So they must have agents in the country you reside in, which means that any state you reside in has agents of the company available to hold accountable for lawsuits that they lose. So there's that possibility. Now, if they're selling to you through a middleman, like say you're buying something from China through Amazon.com, well, all it takes is for Amazon.com to be liable, and then if Amazon.com doesn't like this, they can talk to that company and say, look, you can either pay us back and ensure that these problems won't happen again with your products, or we're just going to dump your products and not carry them, just like we can not carry a domestic seller's products. Now, in a stateless situation where there is no state claiming a monopoly on conflict or dispute resolutions, the situation is, if anything, simple, because all interactions are backed by various kinds of contracts, and any of which can be settled by arbitration. And if a company refuses arbitration, it's now an outlaw company, and you can seek to forcibly gain restitution from them, as long as you can get a judgment against them by a reputable arbitrator. Because remember, you can sue people, and if they don't show up to defend themselves, well, then they don't get to defend themselves. And because it's just a tort over damages, it will likely be decided by the preponderance of the evidence. And if only one side presents evidence, it's easy to get a judgment from an arbitrator, which will then entitle you or any agents that you pay for this service to forcibly extract restitution. Problem solved. It's also important to realize that the majority of the world's economy now takes place across international lines, in situations where no country actually claims sovereignty. The majority of the dollar value of worldwide business currently happens in an actual state of anarchy. Literal anarchy, where there is no state that claims jurisdiction over these contracts. And they are, in fact, typically settled by third-party arbitration. And the companies involved almost always abide by the decision of the arbitrators, because to not do so would basically eliminate them from future contracts on the world market. Oh yeah, free trade is the simplest possible situation for international trade. It just comes down to don't defraud people and don't steal their stuff, and foreigners are the same as domestic buyers and sellers in the market. There's no legal distinction. A free trade agreement need only be one line long, and it need only say, we will have free trade, there will be no tariffs or quotas on imports, and domestic firms will be treated no differently from, foreign firms will be treated no differently than domestic firms. Whole thing. You don't even need a treaty. You can just declare it as an area. If the United States simply passed that as a law, that would be a law, and it would vastly improve the United States economy. And sure, it would probably kill off a few U.S. industries, like the steel industry or something, and even a few industries that under worldwide free trade would thrive. Again, probably the steel industry would be a good example. But it's not a problem overall for the U.S. economy that, say, France is bankrupting itself to hand us what's essentially free steel. Like, that's not a problem for the United States. It might be a problem if you happen to be a steel worker, but it's not more of a problem than if you happen to be a candle maker competing with the sun. I mean, whatever. I do believe that saying is not the same as declaring. You have to declare free trade. If you simply say it, it won't work. You have to say, I declare free trade. Goodness. My drink has very little Coke and quite a bit of whiskey, so it's a little Bernie. Not Bernie Sanders. Well, yeah, that's the thing. If goods become cheaper, then even low-paying work will net you a higher standard of living than it otherwise would. And so, if you are a high-skilled steel worker, many of those skills will be transferable to other areas. And if you're a low-skilled steel worker, well, you can go be a low-skilled something else. You're already low-skilled, so it's not like it's going to be that hard to transition.
Fuel scooping complete.
I'm glad you approve of my drink choice. I don't know how long I'm going to stream. I mean, I should stay up for a while so I can sleep in so that it's not so difficult to transition to working overnight tomorrow night. So I've only got 22 hours and 50 minutes left until I have to be at work. But on the other hand, like, I don't know. Streaming all night sounds like it would be really tiring. And like, I would get tired of it. Which I guess is redundant, but whatever, I don't care.
4, 3, 2, 1.
6 hours longer. That may or may not be the case. I need to stay up 6 hours longer, but I doubt that I'll be streaming 6 hours from now. I'm gonna be completely honest. I doubt you'll be watching, too. I'm actually kind of surprised that you're up this late. I think Ben is in bed.
Fuel scooping.
And really, a big part of the reason I'm streaming is just because I wanted to get closer to home in Elite Dangerous, and I figured if I'm going to do that, I might as well be streaming if anyone's willing to watch. You'll watch as long as I stream. Don't you have work tomorrow, Duke? Like, I know it's not a 40-hour-a-week job, but I feel like you must have work. Maybe it's not in the morning, I don't know. Oh, but aren't... So you're not busy now, but aren't you going to get tired? Or are you just going to keep grilling me about trade and IP and such? For some reason, I thought you said that your job wasn't a full-time job. I could have sworn you said that. Like, I would have bet money on it. I don't know.
Fuel scoop disengaged.
Maybe I'm just imagining things.
Frameshift drive charging.
I just could have sworn that you said that. I was like, oh, that's odd, but I figured maybe you just made enough per hour that you didn't need to. I don't know, man. I might just be imagining things. Maybe I dreamed it. I have weird dreams sometimes. Although I don't think I've ever dreamed about Facebook chat.
Fuel scooping.
Maybe that's what happened. Like, you were like, oh, I don't have any work scheduled this day. And then I just entirely misinterpreted what you said. And then misremembered it. That could very well be. Most days are filled with work. Well, a bit over half of my days are filled with mostly work, and then I come home and I sleep as much as I can. Which isn't as much as I'd like, because I work mostly over the weekend, and that's when the girls are here. And they don't like it that I sleep when they're here. They want me to be awake and watching Power Rangers or going to the park or whatever. No, don't work 7 days a week. That would be breaking one of the 10 Commandments. The third? I don't know them by number.
Fuel scooping complete.
Don't break the 10 Commandments. If you live your life never breaking a 10 Commandment, you'll probably live a pretty moral life
Fuel
overall.
skip disengaged.
By anyone's estimate, really.
Frameshift
I've had good
drive
sleep.
Charging.
While working third shift. Not most of the time, but I've had it often enough that so far third shift isn't too bad.
4, 3, 2, 1.
I'm trying to think. I mean, I definitely have lied. I've probably coveted things.
Fuel scooping.
I've definitely worked on Sundays. But I've never murdered anyone. I don't remember having stolen anything, although I imagine that I may well have stolen something at some point. Probably that wasn't very big or anything, otherwise I would have remembered it. Never committed adultery. I think I'm pretty respectful of my parents. I don't know, I guess overall, yes? I don't know that I want this to turn into a religion stream, Duke. So here's why I don't talk about religion very much. I don't think it ever goes anywhere useful. Because I think essentially everyone who talks about religion very much, at least almost everyone, does so to some degree in bad faith. So that's why I am not a big fan of getting into it, especially in a public forum. Because I just think all it ever does is makes people upset.
Fuel scooping complete.
See, the thing is about politics, I actually do think there are people who talk about it not just because they're like, oh, I'm right and you're evil because you disagree with me. Like, I've actually seen reasoned debates about politics in which, you know, one side has presented good evidence and then people on the other side have come around. But I've never seen that with religion. Not once. Not a single time.
Drive charging.
Which, granted, that's anecdotal evidence. I don't have like any surveys or studies, but that's been my personal experience, is that discussions about religion never go anywhere useful.
3, 2,
I mean,
1.
okay, so you think it can happen with religion. I'm not saying it's existentially impossible. I've just never seen it happen, and it's something that I generally try to avoid because I don't think it's likely enough to happen for me to want to spend my energy on it, quite frankly.
Fuel scooping.
I don't know what convinces people about religious propositions. Also, the question of what counts as the same religion is problematic. So I'm not even sure that works. And even within religions, I often find that it just turns to petty bickering. I mean, if you want to debate, you know, what did some group historically believe, that's a different matter. Like if you said, hey, what's the... Well, see, you say Christian is fairly basic, but there are people inside that call themselves Christians that you probably wouldn't. Like, most people who call themselves Christians don't accept Mormons or Jehovah's Witnesses as Christians. But those groups consider themselves Christians. Some people say that Seventh-day Adventists aren't Christians.
Fuel
Some people say
scooping
Roman
complete.
Catholics or Eastern Orthodox aren't Christians. It's... yeah. Like, are you in the same religion as a Mormon and a Catholic and an Eastern Orthodox Christian? What about an Oriental Orthodox? What about an Nestorian Christian? See?
Frameshift drive charging.
So yeah, even within that. Now, if the question is like, what occurred at the First Council of Nicaea, or what were the primary causes of the Great Schism in the 11th century, or what are the particular beliefs of Oriental as opposed to Eastern Orthodox Christianity? Like, those aren't debates over who's right, those are just questions about, like, what do people actually say? And I'm perfectly willing to have those discussions. Like, if someone's like, hey, what did Vatican II do? I'll talk about that all day.
Fuel scooping.
But in terms of, like, what's the right thing to believe, I don't want to get into it. Most people who call themselves Christians and are in Christian threads debating Scripture are going to agree on the basics. See, but that's the thing. That might be true in a Protestant-heavy area, but if you go into an area where there's a lot of non-Protestants, it's not necessarily true. Because your foundational starting point is not going to be the same between, say, a Roman Catholic, Eastern Orthodox, and a Protestant Christian. Your ideas about what Scripture is, how it ought to be interpreted, what things count as authoritative are going to be very different. For instance, a Roman Catholic may well cite as part of their interpretation of Scripture some statement of a pope or a council like the First Vatican Council as authoritative. Whereas, say, an Eastern Orthodox Christian might well cite some father of the church from, say, the 5th or 6th century as authoritative. Whereas a Protestant would say, well, those are interesting things to look at, but neither one of them ultimately has the final say. Well, Duke, maybe I'm just misunderstanding. What do you think is the basic definition of what it means to be Christian?
4, 3, 2, 1, engage. Fuel scooping.
I know that generally a non-Christian will say that what essentially makes someone a Christian is saying that they are one, which is the definition I use for most religions. But I realize that for all religions from the inside, that is not the same thing as looking from the outside. Say that Jesus is God, died for your sins, and is the only way to heaven. Alright, well, what do you mean by God? Arians, Mormons, and Jehovah's Witnesses would all say that Jesus is God, but they don't mean the same thing that Trinitarian Christians do. And now you're opening up saying he is our way to heaven? Well, in that case, I mean, certain of the more liberal Muslims might be counted as Christians. Especially if you're willing to be loosey on what it means to be God. But see, you would disagree with them, but they count as Christians. I mean, feel free. I just very rarely find that those, and by very rarely I mean I don't think I can think of a single time where I felt like the discussion ended in a good place. And so over the past, I don't know, 4 or 5 years, I've become increasingly disinterested with having
Fuel
debates
skip
over what the
disengaged.
correct theology is, because I don't think they go anywhere. Now, if the debate is what does Group X believe, I mean, that's a different question. Like, if you wanted to have a discussion about, like, what is the Catholic teaching on, I don't know, contraception, cool. That's cool. I'll have that discussion.
Frameshift drive charging.
I don't know.
4, 3, 2, 1. Engage.
Plus, I also feel like I don't know that anything that I have been convinced of in terms of theology, for the reasons that I've been convinced, would be convincing to anyone else. It doesn't seem like it. So, I don't know.
Fuel scooping.
But see, I don't like to go into that because it usually invites arguments. So, and I say that because when I've asked what other people believe, that often ends up starting an argument. So I don't know that it would be different if I answered the question. I'm not scared to expose my beliefs. I mean, if you really want to go look into it, my Facebook profile is not exactly hiding it. And you're right, I don't know that... I could defend my beliefs to my own satisfaction, but I don't know that that would mean anything to anyone else. And most people can't defend their beliefs to my satisfaction, so... it just doesn't interest me.
Fuel skip
But, I mean, go
disengaged.
check out my Facebook profile. It's not a secret. I just don't want to get into it on the stream. Good luck goading me. I can tell it's what you're working on. It's like goading me with the most boring conversation I've ever had. This is unlikely to work.
Frameshift drive charging. Four, 3, 2, 1. Engage.
To me, it's like someone saying, "Oh, I'll bet you're scared to have a discussion about 18th century stamps." I'm like, no, I'm not scared of a discussion about 18th century stamps, except by how boring it will be. Let's go. I'll bet you can't defend yourself on your opinions about 18th century stamps. It's like, I don't know, maybe not. I just don't care. I guess my discussions about religion tend to be more historical than they are theological. Although I do think certain theological propositions are more ridiculous than others. Like, I'm not afraid of saying that I think that Islam is not even internally consistent. And that when looked at historically, it's one of the most absurd of the monotheistic religions. I think Rastafarianism might have it beat, but I think that's only probably because I don't know enough about it. 18th century stamps were of the highest regard. All other stamps suck.
Fuel skip Disengage.
I'm sure you're. I don't even know if the 18th century had stamps. For all I know, postal services work some other way. Because I've
Frameshift
literally never
drive
looked into it.
charging. Four, three, two, one. Engage.
There were stamps apparently, and they were awesome. Well, I'm glad to know that. I don't want you to tell me how they were awesome. I don't want you to go into any detail about their awesomeness. I'm just going to accept that you say that and not question it any further. Although I did notice that the guys who run the Egyptian food truck a couple blocks away from me are Copts. So they are, in fact, Oriental Orthodox Christians. So, and interestingly, the Coptic Church uses a language called Coptic, unsurprisingly, in their liturgies, typically, although they'll also use local languages like English or something. But Coptic is the language that descends from the language of the pharaohs and the hieroglyphics. Copts. C-O-P-T. Copt. They are the native Egyptians. Yeah, Unsocom 4, I agree with you that No Man's Sky is just, I had high hopes for that game, and I didn't pre-order it because I was a little suspicious. And then I heard it was going to be $60, and my first thought was, $60 for an indie game? I don't know. And then I looked around at how much hype there was, and I was like, I'm gonna wait. And then, yeah, it came out, and I can't say I've heard nothing good about it. Some of the planets do actually seem to be genuinely pretty. And, I'm okay with grinding, so some of the gameplay complaints that I hear, I'm just kind of like, I don't really care that much about that complaint. But overall, what I've heard has not been good. Which is too bad, because I did kind of want to stomp around in the world of No Man's Sky for a little bit. But at $60, given what's in there, and more especially what's not, nope, not gonna do it. And I also like the planets in this game more than I like the planets in No Man's Sky. In No Man's Sky, every single planet, to me, looks like basically Fractal Terrain Planet number 846284, and not like an actual planet. You're a PS4 gamer, and wanted Elite Dangerous and No Man's Sky. I don't. Elite Dangerous, I think, is Xbox and PC. Is it on the PS4? If it is, I haven't heard anything about it. Oh, and also welcome to the stream, and I still don't have my Twitch alert set up, so if you subscribe or follow, let me know, and I will give you a shout-out. Oh, so it is around for PS4? Well, that's good. I like games I like to have as many platforms as possible. That's the word, platform. I like this game on the PC primarily because I like the control scheme. I have a hands-on throttle and stick, or a HOTAS. HOTAS? I don't know. H-O-T-A-S, whichever particular realization of the A vowel you want to use there. Oh, Pathfinding is taking forever. Just bring me to the next star! Oh, they said Elite may come soon to PS4? Well, I hope it does come soon. I know that it can be tricky to have a game that needs frequent updates across all three of those platforms, because not only do the updates have to be different, but you have to go through separate, what is it, like, approval processes for patches for the Xbox One and PS4, which can be a pretty big hassle. Whereas for the PC, you just put out what you want, because it's your game. What are they going to do? So I can only plot a route that is up to 1,000 light years. So what I do is I drop down some waypoints that are interesting locations I would like to get to on my way home. So whenever I replot my route, it's because I reached a new waypoint that I hadn't reached before.
4, 3, 2, 1.
So this route will get me to my next waypoint. And then once I'm there, I will have to plot a new one to my next waypoint. All my waypoints are neutron stars and black holes on this trip.
Fuel scooping.
Sony did reveal Eve Valkyrie, and I'm still mixed on it. So here's what I've heard about Eve Valkyrie from people who played it. One, the VR experience is awesome. It's probably one of the best seated VR experiences out there. I've also heard that Eve Valkyrie is a terrific 5 hours, and then you will put it down and probably never come back to it. That is what I have heard on Eve Valkyrie. Now, that's not my personal experience. Take everything I say with a grain of salt. Go find your own reviews, hopefully with reviewers you trust. Check out aggregates for review scores and things like that. Don't just believe me, because I haven't played it. I don't even have a VR headset, so I certainly haven't played it in VR. But that seems to be the general consensus. It is a terrific 5 hours of space combat, and then you will feel like you have done and seen everything. I know it comes prepackaged with Oculus Rift, which is actually one of my complaints about the Oculus Rift. I wish the Oculus Rift had a bare bones version that only came with the headset and the sensor. It didn't come with a 360 controller, it didn't come with Eve Valkyrie, or that other game whose name I can't remember. And the value of those things was, deducted. Because that's easily like $200 worth of stuff that could just be taken off the price of the Oculus Rift. And I wish that that's what Oculus Rift had done, was have a bare bones option. Because I remember a time when they were like, oh, it'll be under $300, and I was like, oh, that's cool, that'll be affordable for me. And then they released, and they were like, oh, sorry, it's like $500. I'm like, it's $500, and it has $200 worth of stuff that you don't want. Thanks, Facebook. Because Facebook owns Oculus Rift now. I don't know if you guys knew that.
Frameshift drive charging.
Jerks. Well, what are you gonna do? Not play virtual reality is one of the things.
4, 3, 2, 1.
Well, I'm glad you now know that Facebook owns Oculus Rift. Which I don't have a problem with. Facebook is not exactly my favorite company. They're a little heavy on the sensor stick when it comes to certain points of view. But overall, I think they're a fairly decent company. I certainly use their social media platform a lot. You've read that PSVR gives you the same experience at half the cost of Oculus. I would not be surprised. I think that's largely the ease of hardware optimization along with the software package. That's one of the big advantages of consoles, is that the hardware and software are very easy to optimize for each other because you have a standard set thing. Everyone knows, here's what the hardware for a PS4 is. Here's what the software for the operating system and all the other core components of a PS4 is. Optimize for this, and you will get a good experience. Whereas with a PC, it's kind of like, oh, well, you know, people have an indefinite number of setups for PCs, so there's no way to really optimize for the one setup. So that is still one of the big advantages of consoles, is that games can be much better optimized for consoles than they ever can be for PCs.
Fuel scooping complete.
The HTC Vive, however, looks like a pretty heavy contender for market share in the VR market. In fact, I believe it currently
Fuel
has
scoop disengaged.
a higher market share than Oculus Rift in the PC VR market. But I'm not positive on that one.
Frameshift drive charging.
Frameshift drive charging.
4, 3,
So, oh, and Unsocom, I am playing this on PC at a 60 frames-ish per second. Every once in a while, when I'm in the system and not loading, you'll see it just stop at 60, and that's because I actually put a cap on it, because my screen can only display 60 frames per second. I'm only streaming at 24 frames per
fuel
second,
scooping.
so I don't feel like using up processing power for more frames than anyone can see, including myself. I think that's a reasonable way to go. So yeah, I basically just told it, no, just get to 60 frames per second and then stop trying. I know that for VR, though, you're going to want to go up into the 90 frames per second range. And my computer is not ready for VR. It's barely even ready for what I ask of it for rendering purposes with Blender 3D. Which, by the way, is going to have a new version come out soon. 2.78, I believe. And micro displacement is going to be the new hot thing for 2.78 as far as I'm concerned. Which will allow dynamic tessellation of a quad-based mesh based on distance from camera. I don't know if you all know what that means, but it is great.
Fuel scooping complete.
Honestly, I ordered PSVR for watching Netflix.
Fuel scoop disengaged.
Wait, why would you order a VR headset for watching Netflix? I explain this to me, because I don't. Yeah, it does sound amazing, Duke, overall, but I don't understand what the point of Netflix in VR is. Please. And like, I'm not saying that you're wrong. I'm sure that you know something I don't, and I want to know what that is. I'm not trying to ridicule anyone.
Frameshift drive charging.
Well, I think they have made a few movies that are in VR, like not big budget ones or anything, but like that have been shot with those like 360-degree cameras. It's like you're in the office. Oh man, Dunder Mifflin Scranton. Duke, that's what we should do. We should make a VR-ready
Fuel scooping.
copy of the office of the Dunder Mifflin Scranton office in like Unreal Engine, and then upload it for free to the interwebs. Like, take a virtual tour of the Dunder Mifflin Scranton branch. One thing I like about the HTC Vive is that it has an external camera. What do you mean, how would we do that? We would get measurements for the office set, and then we would implement it in Unreal Engine. Easy. Oh, to make the episodes in VR would be much more difficult. It probably wouldn't be impossible if we had the locations. We could probably make characters that we could sync to the audio. They wouldn't probably be photorealistic because I am not nearly patient enough to do that. Not even close. I'm barely patient enough to even give a bare bones rig to a character. But I guess we could hire a rigger. But I guess we could actually make it so that you could play like a level that's like, oh, this is what's happening in the office, and if you're in the wrong place, then you miss it. I mean, it wouldn't be impossible. We could do it. It's easy enough to get the audio. Just rip it from video files, or rip it from the DVDs. I mean, it wouldn't take that long. It would all be set animations. There'd be no AI or anything. During E3, folks who tried Netflix in VR said watching movies in VR is like being in the movie. But are there movies on Netflix that are actually made for VR, or is it just like you're watching a big screen that's at some distance from you in a VR environment? Like, I don't really know.
Fuel scooping.
Man, these systems are boring. Give me some Earth-like planets. Actually, Duke, I am thinking about working on Unreal Engine and trying to get some Unreal Engine work done. Trying to figure out how to use it. I don't know if I'm actually going to make a game. I was thinking that maybe I could make some aids for like my D&D games. Like, rather than saying, "Oh, hey, here's my description of the castle," I can just be like, "All right, look, here's this level I made in Unreal Engine. Download it, and then you can see what it's like."
Warning, temperature critical. Fuel scooping.
Or I could actually also make it into a game. I mean,
temperature critical.
I don't know that I would be a good game maker, but
Disengaged.
okay, I get that Netflix streams in 4K, but it's not like it's 360 in, you know, all in 2 axes stereoscopic 3D, is it? I mean, I get that you could get like the best screen imaginable, but I don't know. I'm probably just missing the whole thing, and part of it is that I'm a little tired. My dinner plans went like at least an hour longer than I thought they would. At least there was like an hour-long amount of conversation after dinner that I was not planning on. So, not that I'm, you know, begrudging it. I'm just saying it wasn't what I was expecting.
Drive charging.
Oh, I'm pretty sure they have made actual VR shows and movies. I just don't know that there are very many of them. And if I'm being quite honest, I expect that they'll probably become common for pornography before they become common for regular entertainment. Because, believe it or not, pornography actually has a history of kind of leading the way in new entertainment technologies. No, it was not a conversation about religion. However, I'm not going to disclose all the details because they were given in confidence, and I don't want to break that confidence. Or at least some of them were given in confidence. Well, if a movie's in VR, I don't... I think that it wouldn't be in... Saying it's in 4K I don't think would be meaningful. I think what would matter would be the resolution of your screen. And I think that the resolution of the original film would be much higher than 4K. Although I guess you mean watching a 4K movie on a virtual screen in VR. That would also be very cool. Although I do wonder, how's VR going to interact with like my mild nearsightedness? Because, you know, glasses. Where did I put my glass? Oh, there they are.
Fuel scooping complete.
Glasses. I do want to get a computer
Fuel
with
scoop
VR though.
disengaged.
So here's one of the things. Like, I have two conflicting pulls on me right now. I have like save up for a VR capable PC and a VR headset, and I also have, hey, get cool software to do stuff in 3D, like get the Substance suite so that you can make substances for PBR rendering in Unreal Engine.
Frameshift drive.
And I don't know
charging.
which direction to go in. Lesser eye strength. Yes, my poor weak eyes. They can't handle the virtual reality.
4, 3, 2, 1. Engage.
Oh, on SOCOM, that I do want to check out reviews for Netflix VR. I know my eyes are weak. My poor eyes. They're not as strong as they used to be. I'm getting old.
Fuel scooping.
You go for the VR setup? Alright. I mean, I'm going to take that advice into account, and it will definitely play a factor in my eventual decision. I don't know if it will be the deciding factor, but it absolutely will be an important factor. Whew. Man, it's almost midnight here. Oh, dead air, lots of dead air. I'm a terrible streamer. You should all unfollow or unsubscribe or whatever. I don't think I have any subscribers. You should all unfollow me because I'm such a terrible streamer. Lots and lots of dead air. It's not even midnight yet. Wow, looks like we have a lot of streaming still left to do. Maybe, Duke. Maybe. Hey, why don't you two play the numbers game with How Close Am I to Paris? Whoever gets closest without going over wins 1 million space bucks.
Fuel scoop disengaged.
Get your guesses in ASAP. Because remember, the longer you wait, the shorter the distance becomes.
Frameshift drive charging.
No, not Paris, Paris.
4, 3, 2, 1.
Alright, Duke guesses 14,000 light years. So he hopes that he has not gone over. Unsocom, how many light years do you think I am from Paris? Let me know. Or anyone else who's lurking. I mean, that'll work too. Paris being my final destination. Just like the movie. Except that hopefully I won't die.
Frameshift drive charging.
Get your guesses in so that I can tell you who's right. And give that person 1 million space bucks. Not a billion, but also not 1,000. A million.
1.
Anyone else gonna guess? I feel like no one else is gonna guess. I don't know. I don't know what that means. Should I reveal the number? Or just keep going? I don't know. Let me know in the chat what you think I should do if no one else guesses.
Fuel scooping.
I guess if we go past midnight, they had their chance. But so what if you lose though? What if it's less than 14,000 light years? Then you've gone over. Do you want to lose 1,000,000 space bucks just because? You should reveal the number. Alright, well, the chat has spoken. You're the biggest loser in the world? Well, that's not fair. Alright, so Paris, being way over here, is... Oh, wrong button. Paris. 16,665.90 light years. Oh, you're the biggest loser in the galaxy? Dude, that's pretty rough. You actually didn't go over, so because the other guesses were essentially 0, you win 1,000,000 space bucks. Congratulations. Good job. Now, Duke, here's what I want from you. I want you, when I get back to the bubble, to get Horizons, and then log in, do a bunch of bounty hunting or conflict zones or whatever with me, a bunch of pew 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 pew, and then when multi-crew drops, I want you to join my crew and be awesome. Because that sounds pretty cool. Doesn't it? You could launch into one of my fighters and go and destroy the enemy or whatnot. I don't know. We should work on that. $45 seems like an amount of money that you could reasonably afford. It would let you land on planets, it would let you use engineers, it would let you fly in my ship once 2.2 goes live. There would be a lot of cool stuff that we could do.
Fuel scoop disengaged.
I think you would enjoy it.
Frameshift drive charging.
Maybe you can turn your space bucks for US bucks and buy Horizons. Unfortunately, the exchange ratio is not in your favor. BRB, you're like the only one who's here. Don't BRB. Whatever. Well, I guess Duke's not here, so what am I going to talk about? I mean, okay, so I'm going to upload this to YouTube, but no one's going to watch it. Because no one watches my videos on YouTube about gaming, because I don't blame them, because who wants to watch a 4-hour video of me flying through space looking for stuff, and not finding it? Wow, I've already been streaming for almost an hour. It's pretty good. Oh, my nose is itchy. Why is my nose itchy? I'm going to blame allergies. I'm going to blame allergies based on almost nothing. You have to go. Oh, Duke. Alright, well, that's probably it for me then. Duke, do you want to stick around for me to land on a planet? Because, I mean, that's like the next thing. I'm going to try and land on a planet. Sorry to hear that, by the way. Hope your wife feels better. And also, your wife needs to stream more Mario. Tell your wife to stream Mario. You're welcome.
Warning, temperature critical. Fuel scooping complete.
Fuel scooping complete. I guess I'll look for a place to land. So sad. And also, it seems like the one other viewer who was actually chatting is gone now. And he didn't even say goodbye. Unsocom, I'm very disappointed that you didn't say goodbye to me. I was hoping that you would. I thought we were
Friendship
friends.
drive charging.
Maybe we still are friends. I don't know. I hope so. But you didn't say goodbye, and it makes me sad. I also don't want to wear these anymore.
4, 3, 2.
Now I have a sneaking suspicion that literally no one is watching. Which I guess means I'm talking to myself. Does it count as talking to myself if I only strongly suspect no one's watching? And of course, if no one is watching, I won't get a response. So, I don't know. I also don't want there just to be complete dead air for this entire time on the VOD, in case someone does watch it. Which, again, unlikely, but not impossible. Ugh, brown dwarfs. I hate that brown dwarfs are redder than red dwarfs. Like, come on. Not that Elite Dangerous is inaccurate about that. They should be redder than brown dwarf, or red. Brown dwarfs should be redder than red dwarfs, per the science. I just think that those things, those objects, are unfortunately named, since that is the case. So that's it. Maybe if I do stream all night, more people will show up. I don't know. It's not impossible. It does seem implausible, though. I mean, how many people want, in the middle of the night on a, what is it, Wednesday night, to just, let's watch Elite Dangerous? My guess is that the number is very low. But I don't actually know for sure. Maybe there's hundreds of people, but they're sure not on my channel. Oh, but that's okay. No chat interaction, because no one's in chats. Just me flying around the galaxy. I don't want to end it until I find a place to land. Which, again, is really not a real requirement. I don't know, anyone who's watching this in the future, in the far future of the year 25, you might still be watching this and trying to interpret my ancient English words. But, yeah, there's no reason for me to want to land, except, like, kind of an RP thing. Where, like, I feel like, oh, if this were my real guy and he were just out in space all the time, his muscles would atrophy due to never having to carry weight, and I don't want that to happen to him. As a result, I try to always log off somewhere where there's either real or artificial gravity. By artificial gravity, I in this case mean centrifugal gravity, because this game has no gravity manipulation. Ships don't have artificial gravity, the space stations don't have artificial gravity. All artificial gravity is taken care of by spinning space stations. Which is, pretty cool, if you ask me. Which you didn't, because there's no one talking. But that's okay. Let's see what we got here in this system. Aha! 7.96 light years away from the star, there is a little tiny planet, which I will probably land on. Which means I am almost done after how much time? Just over an hour. Alright. Let's head there, but not too fast. Ooh, a little tired. It's probably a good idea for me to go and land.
Warning, temperature critical.
So always getting critical.
Fuel scooping complete.
Ha! I completed my fuel scooping before I took damage.
Temperature critical.
You already told me the temperatures were critical. I don't need to hear it twice. Tell me again when I start actually taking damage, which I didn't. Whoa! Definitely went too fast though. Lupo shame. That's what I get for not paying attention to the planet that's really close by. Alright, let's... Ooh, I kind of skipped a little bit. It's the second time that's happened today, and like ever. Both today. I wonder what's up with that. Eh. Not too worried. Bring her in for a landing. Do. Landing. Time for orbital cruise pretty soon.
Orbital flight engaged.
Yeah, orbital flight. Orbital flight is best flight. I'm not really sure why they call it orbital. Like, this game never really uses orbital mechanics for anything, except for where planets are. Like, your ships are never technically in orbit over anything. But, hey, whatever. It sounds spacey. Which is really what counts. Whenever my nieces watch me play this, they seem to have no sense of scale of planets or anything. And so for them, rather than getting closer to a gigantic object, the objects are just getting bigger as far as they're concerned. Until they're big enough for me to land on. It's just interesting to hear how they describe it. And phenomenologically, it's the same thing. What they're describing is completely accurate from a phenomenological standpoint. So I can't say they're stupid or anything.
Landing gear deployed.
Hey there, son. Coming in for a landing. Using vertical thrusters and singing a bad song because again no one's in chat and I am just trying to fill up time until I get to the very end. This way, there we go. Oh, there we go. Alignment okay. What do you mean unsuitable terrain? There we go. Ship secured. Hold R or joy POV 1 to launch. But I'm not going to do that now. I will do that some other time, and I may or may not stream it. Thanks for stopping by. And geef jet dit dak eeuwig tot judge.